All right. So excited to have an amazing guest here in this podcast. My good friend. We go back probably a decade, right?
Yeah.
Knowing each other. We met we were running for a large company. Large sales organization. We won't get into the details on that, but we've known each other for over 10 years.
Yeah. As long as my wife.
That's right.
So,
and we own a couple businesses together. So excited to have you. Obviously, one of the reasons we're doing this podcast is primarily to, talk to those people who own restaurants, the never ending struggle, right, of having a restaurant and seeing their margins get smaller and smaller, and trying to help those people understand what is it that they can do to improve their operations. Part of my motivation, I wrote a book called The Restaurant Profit Blueprint. And the motivation was to help a lot of my clients in this space. I am a federally licensed IRS enroll agent and a fractional CFO, and I've been doing this for over 20 years. And so I've seen how restaurant owners, they just struggle, with not understanding their numbers, their margins, their operations. And so that's the reason why I invited you today to this podcast so that we can talk. You have a lot of experience on running restaurants. Tell us a little bit about your background and your experience in the restaurant space. How did you get into it?
Yeah, it's a long story. Well, I came to this country from El Salvador.
That's right.
So I actually have been around food my entire life, right?
That's right.
Our culture is very much food driven, right? Everything exciting happens in food. Right?
Then
there's food involved, right?
100%.
Exactly. Yeah. So I grew up. I was born in El Salvador. Came here when I grew up in New York City, which you couldn't have asked for a better place to experience food because of
all over the world.
Oh yeah. So there's food from Lebanon, Hebrew food, Yiddish food, Mediterranean, kind of everything, Italian food, right?
The beauty of living in the East Coast. I mean, I lived in New York for some time, and I lived in Boston where I grew up. But that's the beauty of experiencing all those different types of cultures and foods. And
exactly. That piggyback. So I've been around food my entire life, and looking back, I'm 43 now. So all my life since what I can remember has been around food. So I also got introduced to the restaurant industry through my father, who was a chef. My father was a chef.
For what? Did he work for himself, or was he work for a different company?
Different restaurants. My dad was a journeyman in the food space, but a lot of cooks are. He came here in the mid 80s and things like that. So, But what I saw, what food brought to him, I mean, my dad spoke like 8 different languages because of all the areas that he worked.
No way.
Yeah. He understood Arabic. He understood Chinese, Korean. I mean, he even spoke Yiddish, which is Hebrew, right?
Right. So, you have a very large Jewish community.
Exactly.
In New York City.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and then also my uncles who came here from El Salvador, they got into the food space, right? So, and that's how I got introduced. So I would see my dad cook. I actually learned how to cook from my dad. Typically, you learn it from.
So, like, would he cook at?
Yeah. So he would cook at the house, and so that the great thing about it, like, because I was able to try, some Greek food, right? Just Korean, Lebanese, all that stuff. He would just come home and just try it. And we're like, man, I just want some rice and beans. You know what I mean? So, that helped me a lot and helped me to understand that the world is bigger than where I'm at right now. Right. Yeah. And then I would take the train to go see him during the summer when I was out of school. I would go see him and go work. I mean, he worked at delis, I ate bagels and lox, and you're like, man, this kid from, this third world country, so we're trying lox for the first time,
Right.
So,
wow.
So I think that in itself started this fascination with food for me in a good way, right? Because I just saw my dad working in these restaurants, so multicultural, but then they were all the same. They understood. And I thought it was so amazing seeing these. When you're in the thick of it in a restaurant, I think, any restaurant follower knows when you're in the middle of a rush, if you guys are not aligned with your team, it's just chaos, right? And I saw this, I thought it was amazing, like beautiful chaos, like controlled chaos, right? Yeah. Where, ordering here, customers here, boom, boom. And then you see that, man, I was like, man, dude, that looks scary, right?
Wow.
So that's how I got introduced to the restaurant space.
And you make a good point, because even if there are different cultures, different types of foods, there has to be some kind of organization, right? Structure,
100%. Yeah.
That you have to follow in order for the business or the restaurant to be successful, right?
Correct.
It doesn't really matter if, if it's Dominican food or Salvadorian food,
Correct.
or
Any culture, whatever,
Mexican food.
whatever food, whatever cuisine you're following, right? It does not matter, right? In the restaurant space, there has to be a structure within on the operational side. I think that's where it's important to understand, business owners, restaurant owners, specifically, we wear multiple hats. I mean, we're talking about, it's a very common theme. And you talked about like in your intro where, the blueprint, right? And the struggles, right?
Yes.
It's a common theme. It's been going on, for years where business owners, restaurant space owners, I think a lot of other businesses also tie into this is where it's the American dream. I finally got my business, right? You're like, boom, but I'm going to do everything.
Yeah. Now you're wearing all these hats.
Correct.
In my experience helping people in the restaurant space with their accounting and that side is that they're a great cook. Maybe they have a great seasoning, a great product they can deliver. They open their own restaurant and now they have no idea what they're getting themselves into.
Correct.
They don't wear, like you said, they have to wear all these different hats.
Correct. Yeah.
And maybe they're really good at one of those hats.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then they suck at everything else.
Well, I think you have, what's your acronym? The 3Ms, right?
Correct.
3Ms, correct.
Yes.
And then the other fault is there's a lot of pride involved, right? Because it's your product. It's something that you created and you're like, no one can do it. But look at any successful brand, whether it's McDonald's, Burger King, Chick-fil-A, any successful brand from, what is it? It was a Cheesecake Factory. Any successful anything. It's not one person doing everything.
No, it's impossible.
You cannot scale. Now, first of all, the creator of that concept has to decide, well, what do I want to do with this? Do I want to scale it? Because then that will teach know where you're going to go, where you're going to take the business. Is this something where it's going to be a legacy passed on to my family, right? Correct. So that's step one, I think. But ultimately, people just want to open one location, right? Or the biggest fear is like, man, are they going to like my food?
Correct. Yeah.
But the exciting part is exactly, that's why there's a lot of pride involved. And a lot of people put everything into it. So it's like
all their saving, their hopes and dreams are now attached.
Correct. Which trust me, I understand. And you and I know, right? Like there's an emotional connection. You just can't see outside of what's in front of you, right?
Yeah. And talking about emotional, I mean, we took over a restaurant not too long ago where the owners were so emotionally attached to everything.
Correct.
That it was very hard it was very difficult to make any type of changes.
Correct. Very much
right?
So, yeah.
Because it was but we're looking for efficiencies.
Yeah.
And you need to make money.
Well, ultimately, are you in it just to keep the doors open, or what do you like? Every business, I think everyone comes in. Yes, there is a love affair in the sense of like this fairy tale where you're going to create a product.
Yeah.
And people are just going to love it. And I know I like it when I make something and people love it. There's an emotional, there's a dopamine fix to that, right?
100%.
So you kind of keep chasing. I was like, oh yeah, that works. But it's not necessarily about that, right? You still have your overhead. You have rent to pay. You like you have payroll. You have all these other things.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think the common theme is that every business owner, everyone who started a business, whether it's food, tire shop, anything, you're so invested in it, right? Mm-hmm. But with that being said, there's a lot of pride involved, right? And pride in a negative way, I think, right? Because there's a separation of pride of being proud of it and then being even proud that someone likes your product.
Sure.
But then the pride that I'm talking about, which is, let's be honest, I'm talking as a restaurant operator, where you think that you have to do it on your own and you can't ask for help. But also, where do you turn to? Right? What do you talk to?
It's lonely. It's lonely when you own a business because if the business is not doing very well, who do you talk to?
Exactly. Or maybe you did ask for help and they take advantage of you, right? You didn't get what you wanted. So you're like, no, I tried that once. That didn't, that's the negative. That's the bad pride. And you cannot have that, right? Ultimately, do I want to keep going? You have to make the decisions like, okay, I need to ask for help and I need to find, the right team. It's about creating a team. And I think your acronym is 100%. The reason why I feel we're successful in the food space is whether the multiple restaurants you work. I think you can expand on the three M's, right? You know, I handle one side of the M's, right?
Exactly.
And then, you know, you and I collaborate on
Yeah,
one of them.
I kind of learned this the hard way working with all these different operators over the years and I would see that they would be very good at one thing, like maybe they were just great operators, but then they lack maybe the sales and marketing side or the money. And so I created the three M's, you know, which is marketing, which is sales, right?
Yep.
And then you have management, which is the operations
Correct.
of the business. And then you have the money. And money, it's, you know, everything, projections, taxes, you know, bills that need to be paid, all these little things that need to happen that a lot of times don't happen. And then restaurant owners get behind. And that's usually, those are the things that destroy a restaurant.
Exactly. I mean, think about it. You know, I work, and you've worked a line with me too, right? In rushes. Could you imagine me after pulling a long shift from like 6 a.m, right?
Correct.
Getting crushed through with sales, which is a good thing, right? You have a successful day, but I'm exhausted, man. Like I'm tired, like
correct.
On my feet, sweating, whether a bad customer experience, whatever. And then do you think I'm going to have the same energy to go look at invoices?
Yeah.
Or payroll, right? No, that's the last thing that I want to do. And then also let's take into consideration your family at home.
You have your family as well.
Exactly. Right.
And you have little kids. I mean, I have older kids now, but
exactly.
I still have one little one.
I have 3 little ones, you know, and you know, it's not an easy, you know, thing to do. Whether it's food, whether it's any type of business, right? You know, you, like you said, you've been in your practice for 20 plus years, you know, and I saw that, right? But just people think it's just the glamorous aspect of like, man, the store's busy. Yeah, that's great. I love that.
That's one thing.
There's so many layers to that.
There's so many moving parts.
And I understood that honestly, where the sacrifice that my father made and the struggles also too, right?
Right.
So that actually deterred me. You know, I worked pretty much every space. I mean, my first job was working at a restaurant. I would bus tables for tips, right? During the summer. I remember this was like 92, 93. So I would take the train all the way to New York City from Brooklyn. Back then it was $1.25 a token. So I'd have to make $3 because my dad said, I'm not going to give you those $3. You have to go earn it. Right.
Good.
So I had to go hustle. Like I was bussing tables. I was doing deliveries. Right. So, but I understood that there's ups and downs. Right.
Yeah.
I steered away from it because I saw how hard it was. But I deep down inside, it's been in my blood since I was a kid, you know? So it was a lot of fun. Went completely left field and joined the military. I think, joined the Marine Corps, you know?
Marine Corps,
which was, you know, I was like, man, this is something that I love. And ended up getting out after 8 years, you know, after my father passed away and stuff like that. And then I met my wife, and I went to culinary school because I was like, well, what am I good at? What am I good at? Everyone would tell me all the time, you cook amazing, like, you know, this and this, just, you should go. And then when I realized, I was like, okay, I fell in love with it again, because then I understood I wasn't an employee, right? Like I wasn't just a staff member. I understood the ins and outs. And in culinary school, they do teach, you know.
They teach the operation side.
They teach the operation side. Yeah, correct. So, you know, it's like you said, it's not necessarily about giving you the best steak. You know, if I'm only charging $7 for the steak, right? But the steak cost me $12, you know, that there's a business side of it.
There is.
Yeah.
100%.
And that's why I say, like, it's important to have a team. And then there's the money side, the marketing side, and the management side is key.
Yeah. So like one question, you know, why do so many restaurant owners lose money? And then I have this question, like, if working harder, right? Like if working hard was the equation to have any successful restaurant, then most restaurant owners would be rich.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, yeah,
because these people work hard.
Yeah.
But why so many of these individuals don't really make money in their restaurant operations?
Well, again, I go back to the 3M, the money side. Like, let's be honest, you tell me, hey, things are tight, or, you know, hey, sales weren't the same, right? Like, you communicate with me. Like, I think it's important that, yes, if it was about working hard, everyone would be successful. But it's not just that. It's understanding, right? Understanding for me, I always communicate with you, hey, there's seasons, right? Our sales are going to be higher here.
Correct.
Right? Understanding your industry, understanding who your competitors. So on the operational side, that's where I have to bring in my experience and my knowledge, right? On the money side, right? And that's why for me, I can imagine doing everything.
Yep.
Like it would, like my stores would have been closed by now, man. So, it's important that the reason why I think is that they just are not educated enough, right?
They're not educated enough, right? For example, are you staffing
Correctly
based on emotion, or are you staffing based on the logic of a trend or some,
Yeah.
What happens in this month of the year
Correct.
typically?
Or just people overstaff because I'm there working all day. So I'm tired, right? So I'm going to add 5 people on shift, but our sales are nowhere near my labor's 30-40%.
Yeah, right.
When in reality, people that have been in the food space, to hit your margins, you have to be anywhere between, great operational store. I would say you can push 18 to 19% labor, right?
Okay. No greater than that.
No, well, like if you have a solid team, but you want to be anywhere between 20 to 25 on the labor side. On the food cost, you want to be, 15 to 20%, right? So that adds up to about 40 to 45% at the end of the month. But that's the thing is a restaurant owner doesn't even know that.
They don't know what the cost of goods sold, the labor costs.
How much does this plate cost me, including product, right?
Right.
So that again, going back to what you said is like people think because they have a great product, but it starts right there where they're like, oh yeah, well all I have to do is sell this. They don't realize that they can't do everything.
Yeah. It's a myth. It's more sales is not necessarily going to fix the problem.
Correct.
It could potentially maximize it if you don't understand your numbers, right?
Yeah. Perfect example, Chick-fil-A and McDonald's. I don't have the exact numbers, but Chick-fil-A has way less locations than McDonald's.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, McDonald's is worldwide.
Yeah, correct.
Right.
Correct. But because Chick-fil-A, their performance, right? They outsell McDonald's because of their operational side. Right?
They run a very tight operation.
Correct. Right. So it's not necessarily because I bring in more sales. No. If your store is bringing in, that's why you see stores that are doing $1 million and they're only netting 5, 8, 10, less than 10% in net profitability, right? When you should be anywhere between 16. My goal is always 18 to 22, right? That's when you've hit your stride. Mm-hmm. But anything above, I think anything under 15, there's something going wrong, right? Something's not organized. Yeah.
Right. Maybe you have too many vendors. Correct. Maybe you have, there's spoilage. You're losing money because you're overproducing.
Correct.
You're paying bills that are not necessary.
Yeah. And then
eating your profit.
Correct. Well, and then the other thing is because numbers are so low, because they're not running 15, 16, 18% higher, they don't want to work with someone that's going to charge them. Correct. Because their margins are, instead of it being 18%, they're at 9 to 12. And you're like, oh man, that's going to drop my net profit. That's less money coming in for me. So I'm like, no, I'll just do it. Not a big deal. I'll just watch a YouTube video.
I know. And a lot of times you need somebody to actually come in there and teach you how to get it done.
And not even necessarily teach you, just understanding.
Understand it, right?
That's the great thing about again, our partnership and how we work is I trust, the numbers as well as I do, but I can't do what you do, right? I need to understand.
I can't do what you do. So it's almost like you're focusing on your unique ability, right?
Correct.
And you're delegating the rest.
Yeah. And it just makes things easier, right? It's everything, we've had highs and lows, right? But it helps you push through those challenges. We're like, man, this is brutal. Sales are horrible. Okay, what do we got to do? And then you're working with the team.
That's right.
So that's important. So
I don't know if we are allowed to mention the franchise that you own on this podcast, but we don't need to get into details. But you have owned and operated seven total. 7 of these franchises.
Yeah.
Here in the state of Utah and also
in California, correct?
So how did you get into that space? What happened, and what have been maybe the most significant learning lessons?
I think
working inside, a major brand and when it comes to the restaurant or the food space, right?
Yeah. Obviously it's scary, right? I've never, I've always worked on two locations, one location. Like I said, growing up in New York City, I worked at single delis and things like that.
Right.
Nothing to where it's a national, now it's a worldwide brand, right? So it's like, man, So how I got into it, actually, so after the Marine Corps, went to culinary school. I did sales and marketing. Like I worked with Verizon, AT&T, these big companies, did sales. Loved it because I'm a people person. So I always, being a New Yorker, I learned that actually from working in the restaurant space, right? I would have to talk to people. So, I just was like, okay, I got to sell, So leaving the Marine Corps, I was like, man, I got into sales. I loved it also because it was just simple, just selling your product. If you believe in your product, then it's easy, right? So I was doing that. And then I got approached by a good friend of mine, his cousin, right? He reached out to me, hey, have you heard of this brand? And I'm like, yeah, I've heard of it. It's a good concept. They had just started. I think they were only open maybe they had been in existence in about 2 years, I think.
Okay.
I was like, man, I love the simplicity. I always would go to restaurants and kind of see what they're doing wrong or what do I like about it. This one was simple.
Simple concept.
And that goes back to operational side. People think more things on their menu. Less is always more,
less
right?
is more.
Correct. Focus on what you do good and what product is great and like people love, and then just excel at it.
Correct.
So I walked in and I was like, man, this is awesome. And then he's like, man, we got approved for 3 locations and you need to open, you have to move to California. So I was like,
so now you're like, okay, wow. So now you become a partner.
I become a partner, and he's like, I'm going to have you.
And you were the one who had to kind of execute the.
Yeah, which was, initially everybody, again, new to the game, especially the franchise space.
Right.
The requirements and things like that. There's a lot of, franchise. I don't knock franchises. I think they have it depends on what you want to do if you want to get into the food space, but there is a structure, right? Certain franchises are stricter, some aren't. The brand that I was working with, they were still somewhat in the find out phase. They had certain things, but it was evolving continuously, right? Now we ended up getting approved in the heart of COVID in California.
Yeah. Wow.
So I thought I was just going to treat it as running a team, right? Which I was like, that's not an issue, right? Baking is not complicated. So I ended up learning things and I'm grateful for it now.
Right.
Because I've never been through a build out, like a full build out, picking a location, understanding the foot traffic, why the importance of that is, understanding what an anchor store is. For all you guys know how important an anchor store is, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So if you don't know, it's foot traffic, a great anchor store, like a supermarket, Costco, right? McDonald's, like what we have, right? At one of our locations. So that was new to me, but I was excited, man. I was like, man, this is new, but I'm like, I thought everybody did it, right? The pride that you get as an owner, you're going to do everything that you could, right? To make this successful. So you want to make sure it's the best location. Like you're doing all the work and things like that. So I was fully invested, man. Wow. We ended up opening 3 locations in 4 months. Over 200 employees, well over 200 employees. But we ended up having issues with the contractor, and I won't get into that story. That was,
a lot of people do lose money on the contract.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Right.
So,
especially when you're doing a build out.
Yeah, correct. So that's the scary part, right? Because you trust contractors, man. I'm not fond of them. You got to be careful, right? But there's a lot of vetting that goes involved in that. But ended up, hiring a horrible contractor. We ended up doing the work, the majority of the work. We had been delayed. Yeah. I was laying down tile. I learned how to submit permits, right? I actually went down to the city because during COVID, people weren't doing face-to-face, right? So
wow.
I was like, man, I got to do something. I couldn't get a response through email, like phone calls, I said, and sometimes you just got to shoot from the hip. I went and I knocked on the mayor's office.
That's good.
Yeah. So it's initiative. That's also a Marine Corps military
You gotta go.
mindset. Yeah. You got to get stuff done, adapt and overcome. You can either dwell on the problem or you can dwell on the solution, right? You just kind of go for it. So, and I just started knocking. I told him, luckily he was a Navy veteran officer. And I said, listen, this is what we're trying to do. We're literally in the last phase. I'm waiting on the approval of my permits. I need your help. We're going to be contributing over 300 jobs to the city.
Wow.
What can you do, brother? Like, please, I need your help. We're like, this is, and sure enough, he went down to the city, approved us the very next day, and then we got approved. So
that's great.
Yeah. So trust me, I understand the struggles, man. Like I understand like the mindset that you have to have. It's like make or break, right? Like you gotta, it's you against everybody. So I can understand why people are like, no, it's just me. And, I'm the one that got us here. But, there has to be a change. And it came. So I ended up opening 3 locations in 4 months while my wife was pregnant with our second child.
Right.
My daughter was born. So that was brutal. But I would not change that experience because I literally learned.
You learned a lot. You learned from like how to build it
from the ground up,
dealing with all those issues.
Correct.
So that it makes you definitely much more valuable, right? Because now you understand kind of the whole process.
Yeah. And then you also, I credit that experience understanding your value, right? Where like, I didn't think, honestly, you don't go into it thinking that you can't do something, right? I don't know if you can speak to that, but I've never been a type of person where like, oh, I know everything now. But what I'm confident in is like, I will outwork somebody.
Right.
So
exactly.
And a lot of restaurant owners do that, So
yeah. What would you say, like, I mean, the difference between running a franchise versus running a mom and pops? What's the difference?
Oh yeah. I mean, the major thing is you have a full support team, right?
Yes,
those franchise fees.
You have structure.
You
have manuals.
Correct.
You have
marketing.
Ps, standard operating procedures, a stack of things that you have to follow. Now,
compliance.
Right. And if you don't follow those, there are typically penalties, right?
Penalties, yeah. I think typically are fines or things like that of that nature also too. I mean, I've seen some store closures.
They were not following.
Because they weren't following, right?
So like in your opinion, like what was like something that was like, what would be like a standard operation procedure that maybe a lot of mom and pops operations do not follow? What would be something that you, while running, those multiple locations, what was one of those things that you saw?
Mom and pops or
yeah. Mom and pops typically don't do.
Yeah. So I think from what I see from experience, a lot of the things is it really goes back to the numbers. It's 2 things, right? Is understanding with a franchise, you can track all your numbers on your phone.
Yeah, there's typically
your sales
software that allows you to see the critical performance indicators. Yes.
So, the great thing about working with the franchise and the franchise I work with, like we had an app and we can track sales coming in. We can track customer experience, timing,
complaints.
Your complaints, your labor cost, right? Like per hour, you can track as sales go in, like you can track, okay, where are we at on labor, right? So that's great. That's awesome because you're like, okay, you can make real time, real moment adjustments. Hey, I got too many people. I got to send some people home.
Right.
So,
it's not, you're not looking at the stuff at the end of the month, which is like useless. You're seeing it live.
Correct. And that's crucial to any success. That's where, as crucial as having the best burger, that having visible data is crucial to a owner, right? Owner's success in a food space or any space, right? In my opinion. I think you can run a landscaping business, everything like that, like any type of, industry. I think it's important to have real-time data so you can really, as they say, tangible, see it. If you don't see it, it doesn't exist.
Correct. 100%.
So on the mom and pop side, they don't have that data.
They don't.
No. I mean, some places don't even have like an actual point of sale system.
Most of them are running their business out of their balance on their cell phone.
Correct. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Or writing hand receipts and things like that. They're still thinking it's, the 80s or something like that. Maybe for longer than that, but what I mean?
You would be surprised how many businesses run that way. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, no, the majority of them are.
What percentage of restaurants usually fail?
Yeah.
Is it like over 90%?
I think it's over 90%, but the thing is, the biggest mistake, and again, I don't knock, I've been an operator. We're going on 10 years, right? Food space and things like that. It's scary, right? But I think the biggest mistake we make also too is that we want to cut corners. We want to not spend on the things that are most valuable to us. That's actually going to insert more revenue into your business.
Correct.
Again, if you are just looking what's in front of you as a restaurant owner, you're not going to realize that behind what's in front of you are your doors closing.
Exactly. 100%.
Yeah. So I think that's the great thing where you come in is that you can look at the projections and tell me. That's where as operators, it's important for us to have guidelines. And you tell me, hey, Jose, like our numbers are this, and this. We need to make cuts, right? Okay, cool. Yeah, what are the percentages?
We need to fire some people.
Exactly. Hey, we can't schedule that much this week because sales were on a downtrend. When you tell me that, I'm like, okay, what do we need to do?
Right.
What do I need to do to get my team ready?
Yeah, the
Right?
data is definitely powerful. The
Data is
the
important.
data is very
It's make or break in the business.
it is.
Again, as much as you can have a great burger, but it doesn't matter if like you don't have the data to know, how many burgers you need to make.
100%.
So
Jose and I, we created a system that allows business owners who own restaurants to be able to scale their operations, where we come in and we help you with the fractional CFO component of the business and also the operational side, the COO side of the business, to help you kind of maximize, those three areas, the marketing and sales, right? The management, which is the operations, and also the money, right? You want to have control of those three things in order for your business to be successful. And so any last words on this episode?
No, I'm excited, honestly, to kind of continue diving into this because I think it's important. I think you and I have been students of, the industry, right?
Yeah, real life, right? It's not
And we
theory.
see the consequences. Like, for me, it's what we put out. And I think that you and I have been through so much individually with our businesses in itself. But I think there needs to be a support for restaurant owners.
There has to be.
But it can't be like just someone that has never really lived through it.
Done it. Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, so it's like saying a combat veteran, like sending someone to combat or listening to the guy that's never been in combat. Who are you going to listen to?
Exactly. You need a guy that has experience.
Exactly. And who's actually been through the trenches, right? Someone calling out last minute, right? During your shift, like, those type of things, right? And so I'm excited to kind of, work with other restaurant owners, and if anything, give them the tools, break bread, and kind of learn from them also.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
yeah.
I think a lot of people would benefit greatly if they had a little bit more structure, structure and support in their restaurant success journey.
Yeah.
And so we have created this program that's going to be able to help restaurant owners, do that.
Yeah.
So
no gatekeeping here. You know what I mean? We want to make sure everyone out there is successful. I think that's how you pave it forward. And that's what, we want to do, right? Ultimately, to see people succeed in these other things, right? That we know that work for us. And, I think it's important to kind of work with that. And, so I'm excited to continue this journey, man.
Well, Jose, thank you so much for, joining me in this episode.
Hey, man, thank you.
We'll have more episodes
Let's do it.
We'll go into specific topics that will help, our audience. But thank you so much, brother.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Awesome, man. All right, bro. Let's do it.
Okay. All right. Let's see how this thing. Beautiful, man.